and Public Services Committee meeting. I would like to now call this meeting to order, and I would like to start by doing a land acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and the Métis homeland, and acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, as well as Métis and Inuit, and now settlers from around the world. And I will now do a roll call. Councillor Rice?
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Knack?
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Paquette?
Good morning.
Good morning. Mayor Sohi, are you online? No. Councillor Cartmell?
Morning.
Good morning. And I will just see if we have any other colleagues joining online. Councillor Wright?
Good morning.
Good morning. And I do not see any other councillors online at this time. Next, we will move adoption of the agenda. Councillor Rice? Oh, I see Councillor Stevenson is here as well.
Good morning. Thank you. I move that April 29, 2024 Community and Public Service Committee meeting agenda be adopted with the following changes. Additions 7.1 bylaw, 20814 entertainment district bylaw, 7.2 City of Edmonton recreation facilities naming rights and sponsorship update, name and sale approval for Terwilliger Community Recreation Center. For the deletions, 9.1, City of Edmonton Recreation Facilities naming rights and sponsorship update, name sale approval for Terwilliger Community Recreation Center, private pursuant to Section 16, 24, and 25 of the Freedom of Information and Protection Privacy Act.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Any questions on the adoption of the agenda? Not seeing anyone, I'll ask my committee colleagues to please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Next, we'll go to approval of the minutes. Councillor Knack.
Yes, thank you. I will move the approval of the minutes from the April 8th, 2024 Community and Public Services Committee and the April 17th, 2024 Community and Public Services Committee non-regular meeting. April 7th, did I say? Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Any questions? Not seeing anyone, I'll ask my colleagues to please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Protocol items. I'm not aware of any protocol items this morning. Select items for debate. I'll ask my colleagues to please sign up. Councillor Knack.
Thank you. We have speakers on item 7.1, so I'll select that.
Thank you, Councillor Knack.
He was only here if it got selected.
I'm not seeing any other questions.
Then I'll move all remaining items.
I'm just going to ask for a minute here. Sorry for the delay. Councillor Rice?
Yeah, so I would like to select 7.2. That's only one item left.
You would like to select 7.2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for very quick question, I need to administration.
Okay. All right. Okay. We have selected items for debate. Next, vote on report, or sorry, can we go over which items?
Councillor Principe will have to vote on
The items not
the items
selected
not
for
selected.
debate.
So I'll move those items not selected.
Thank you. Please vote.
Oh, before we do that, point of order. If we are collecting or selecting 7.2, does that mean that we also have to cross-reference for 9.1?
9.1 has been deleted because those
Oh, it's been deleted.
attachments, yeah,
Okay.
those attachments have been added to 7.2.
Okay, now I understand. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, so I'll ask you to vote on reports not selected for debate.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. The Community and Public Services Committee has approved the following recommendations for item 5.1, reassessment of lived experience research with a revised due date of November 25th, 2024, and item 5.2, updates to city policy C529, immigration and settlement with a revised due date of November 25th, 2024.
Thank you. Next, we will go to request to speak. Councillor Knack?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Principe. I'll move the Community and Public Services Committee hear from the following speakers in panels when appropriate. For item 7.1, Jordan Beatty from the Sherlock Holmes Hospitality Group in person, and Stephen Rates from Pastor People on remote.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Next, we'll go to request for a specific time on agenda. We do have a request that item 7.2, City of Edmonton Recreation Facilities Naming Rights and Sponsorship Update, name sale approval for Terwillegar Community Recreation Center, first item of business.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Any questions? Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Next, councillor inquiries. I'm not aware of any. Reports to be dealt with at a different meeting, none. Request to reschedule reports completed. Unfinished business, none. We are on to our first item 7.2, but before we start, before we hear from administration, I would just like to go over the expected conduct. I would like to share our expectations are that everyone participating will have a safe and inclusive environment and workplace. These expectations apply equally to both in-person and virtual attendees. Hearing from the public is an important part of Council's process to ensure we hear the full diversity of opinions that exist in our community. As meeting chair, I have the responsibility to ensure the safety of all participants in today's meeting. As part of that responsibility, inappropriate comments or gestures will not be tolerated. If they occur, I will direct the clerk to immediately remove anyone engaging in such behavior. The type of behavior that will result in removal from the meeting includes making disrespectful comments directed at individual staff members or other public speakers, or using profane language. Responsive behaviors to show support or dissent, such as shouting, cheering, clapping, or using the chat or emotion response features in the Google Meet, are also not permitted. I will not provide any additional warnings, and once removed, the person will not be permitted to rejoin the meeting. This meeting is being live streamed and everyone is welcome to view the live stream online. Again, my role as chair is not to moderate the nature of the content being discussed, but to ensure that the chamber behaviors are maintained to support a safe, respectful, and neutral space for my colleagues, city employees, and the public. And I thank everyone in advance for your respectful participation in today's discussion. And now I will pass it over to administration. Thank you.
Good morning. If there's only a question from the councillor, we'd be happy to respond to the question for 7.2.
I think there were other questions I've heard.
Okay. Then we will provide brief introductory remarks.
Great, thank you.
So today we are here to provide committee with an update on administration's progress on name sales as directed by council, including details on the name sale agreement that has been negotiated for Terwillegar Community Recreation Centre. This work to generate revenue in order to offset a portion of the city's operating expenses and impact on the tax levy through naming and sponsorship opportunities is in keeping with other municipalities' approaches to address growing financial pressures. We are seeking approval to enter into this naming and sponsorship agreement. This work is done in collaboration with our communications and engagement colleagues to ensure the overall City of Edmonton branding is honored and consistent. We request that the attachments associated with this report and any related discussion remain private pursuant to Sections 24, Advice from Officials, Section 25, Disclosure harmful to economic and other interests of a public body of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. I'll now pass this over to Roger Jevney, Branch Manager of the Community Recreation and Culture Branch, to provide further information on this matter.
Thanks, Jen. So in response to Council's direction in 2020 to proactively seek name sale opportunities to increase revenue, administration has been working to identify and confirm name sale partners for 5 recreation facilities, including the Terwillegar Community Recreation Centre, the Meadows Community Recreation Centre, Clareview Community Recreation Centre, Lewis Farms Community Recreation Centre, which is under construction, and Remax Field. The naming opportunities to support Edmonton's commitment to building a healthy city that provides opportunities for communities and businesses to thrive by providing partnership opportunity with a local business that will generate revenue and help offset a portion of the city's operating expenses and the amount of tax levy needed to support our popular sport and recreation facilities. The first completed name sale was the Remax Field Agreement, which is a 5-year agreement from 2021 to 2026, with an option of an additional 5 years subject to mutually agreeable negotiated terms. This name sale was approved by City Council in 2021. Over the past 2 years, we've worked closely with the proponent to come up with the negotiated terms of a naming agreement for the Terwillegar Community Recreation Centre. We believe this partner to have a strong alignment with the city's values and brands. The proponent meets the evaluation criteria identified in C477A, the name sale policy, and is a business success story. Administration has engaged community members on the potential name sale of the Terwillegar facility and the specific proponent. The overall results of the public engagement demonstrated support for the proposed name sale agreement, with the proponent and the general sentiment being that this specific partnership and name sale would be low risk to the city and a logical partnership, given the fact the proponent is the local company with a brand that focuses on the promotion of a healthy lifestyle. Agreements of this type have clear benefits and risks that are important to consider. And while this agreement will bring much needed revenue to help offset current operating costs of our recreation and sport facilities, we understand there are also reputational considerations, and we need to be prepared to actively manage. The proposed agreement has been negotiated with the proponent and includes clear obligations for the proponent to maintain brand integrity, including specific accountabilities related to any degradation of the city brand as a result of the association with this privately run company. Additionally, it's important to raise awareness that we're starting to see an increased interest from the business community related to name sale and facility and amenity sponsorship opportunities. Our partner organizations understand the benefits that other municipalities have garnered from similar name sales and view this as a means to bolster their capacity to operate and offer programs in our facilities. We've been notified by the partners at the Coronation Park Sport and Recreation Center, the Mountain Bike Skills Park, and for amenities in Commonwealth Stadium that they would like to pursue name sales, and we feel that this is just the beginning. As more and more municipalities enter into these types of agreements, our communities and partners are looking to the city to confirm our position on sponsorships and name sale opportunities. Consideration and a decision by council on this proposed name sale does have the potential to send a broader message into the business community that must also be considered at this time. Should the proposed name sale receive council approval, we are confident in our ability to execute the name sale agreement this spring, initiate the implementation across facility and oversight over the summer, and officially public announce the name sale in the fall. We're happy to take any questions you may have and are prepared to move into private to provide more details about the specific proponent, including draft designs of the signage implementation that will be part of the name sale.
Great, thank you for that. Councillor Rice, you selected this item. Are the questions you have public questions or are they private?
And one public.
One public? Okay,
Yeah,
please go ahead then.
I selected it, and because I do heard and my colleagues, other colleagues had questions. I have a quick question, why we change this from 9.1? I didn't get opportunity to ask it at that moment, to 9.1 private report to the public report. But for other question, I will ask and in the private.
Yeah, the reason why it was moved from in private to in public is because we were able to remove the proponent's name from the discussions to allow to have a public conversation about the request for the sponsorship generally. If we want to talk about the proponent or conditions of this negotiation, that would be required to be in private.
Okay, so that is just concept and share with public and for this sponsorship.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. That's my question.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. I don't see any other committee colleagues on to ask questions, so we'll go next to Councillor Rutherford. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have questions, Chair, both in public and in private.
All right.
So I'll start with my in public questions, if that's okay.
Sounds great. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm just going to focus on the main report and asking questions about the main report that is a public facing document. I was confused by the budget financial implications statement. So it says attachment 2 outlines the terms, but it says that the branch will see that revenue included in 2024 on an ongoing basis. If this agreement is not approved, it will significantly impact the recreation and culture's ability to achieve the budgeted branch naming rights revenue on an ongoing basis. So we've already budgeted for this revenue, or I was confused. Are we adding this as a new revenue line, or have we already budgeted for it? So if we don't approve it, it's a decrease. I'm just trying to get a sense of that.
Yeah, Councillor, based on the Council Direction 2020, this has been included in our revenue expectations. So the revenue budget includes the sale of these revenues. If we don't earn them, then we'll have a bit of a deficit on the revenue side.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me. And then I see that this was directed in 2020. Have we, since 2020, are there other, I know this cluster here that we're talking about, but are there other clusters of recreation facilities that have been given direction since 2020 that you're also pursuing?
No, these are the 5 that we're actively pursuing. Under the policy, we can pursue them for new facilities. And I think that's why some of the partner groups like the Mountain Bike Skills Park are pursuing naming rights as part of their fundraising strategy.
Sorry, I don't understand that answer. I apologize.
So there are some groups that we're working with that they're trying to raise capital funds, and they're looking at constructing projects and including the facility name sale or certain amenities in a facility as part of their fundraising strategies. So there are things that are actively being worked on for new facilities, then that's in alignment with the policy.
Would that include like the ski club and those kind of that we have also coming up?
Groups like that, we're not aware of anything specific at the ski club, but organizations like that.
Okay. What about the Coronation Rec Center?
Part of the council's direction to them was around naming certain amenities within the rec center. As I mentioned in the speaking notes, there are some groups that have expressed interest in buying the naming rights for the overall facility, but we don't have council direction to do that, only to sell the.
So you would need to come, you need to come back to get council direction to do that?
Yeah, we would. The policy talks about only council direction for new facilities, but I think if we were going to do that one, because it is adding on to Peter Hemingway Pool, it's a bit confusing, so I think we would bring that back if we were going to go beyond just the 4 amenities that we have direction on.
Okay. Yeah. Are you expecting to come back with a report on that? And if so, when?
Yeah, we're well into construction, so we're sort of watching today as well to see what the directions from council, and If we are going to proceed with naming rights, then we would bring that forward in due course. But it is an important part of the fundraising for the partner group at the Coronation Community Center, Coronation Park Sports and Recreation Center. So we would need to bring it forward in short order.
Okay, those are all my questions for in public. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stevenson?
Thank you very much. Also have a few private questions, but public as well. So just in terms of those budgetary implications, could you confirm how much has been budgeted for the naming?
There's 150,000 in our revenue budget associated with naming
For all of those, like for the entire strategy?
for each year. Yeah,
Oh, sorry, for each individual one. And that was budgeted to start this year?
this year.
or-
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then just in terms of, so I note that attachment 1 will become public. Just in terms of some of the, I guess I'm just wondering how transparent some of the other details of the agreement will be moving forward.
I think the agreement would stay in private as a commercial agreement. I don't think we would, as we are also trying to sell future naming rights for other facilities, I think we would keep the most of the terms of private, but certainly the name of the proponent clearly would become the term, the duration of the agreement, but other amounts would, I think, remain in private.
Okay, well, I'll follow up with that when we go into private. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Wright?
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, the previous council direction was to explore the naming rights, correct?
It was direction to pursue those 5 facilities, and then under the policy, we needed to come back with, once we had landed on a proponent or a partner that we wanted to sign a contract with.
Okay, but prior to getting council's approval, I'm just wondering why it was budgeted already for revenue if it hadn't yet been approved.
Yeah, I think the direction was approved that we pursue name sales on these 5. We're back now to finalize this one deal.
Okay, and then I don't know. To me, it's kind of counting your chickens before they're hatched. But then I'm also looking at policy alignment with the naming committee that they didn't consider this submission to be a traditional naming application.
That's right. I think given the earlier council direction to pursue the names, the naming committee didn't feel it was their place to step in and debate whether this particular proponent was appropriate or not. I think they're following the council's direction and saying this is really council's decision, not the naming committee's.
Okay. Okay. And I have more questions in private once we get there. Thank you.
Okay, so not seeing any more questions for public, we are going to, Councillor Rice, would you like to move that we go into
Yeah.
private?
We move to the private.
Please vote.
Just waiting on one vote. Thank you. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. All right, so we will be moving.
We are in public.
Welcome back, everyone. I do have a question for administration. So I appreciate this report coming back, but I want to know, it doesn't actually have a recommendation. Does administration recommend that we go forward with this proposal?
Yeah, and in the report, the recommendation does state that we recommend the Community and Public Services Committee recommend to City Council that the naming rights agreement as outlined be approved.
Right, sorry, I'm sorry, I did read that part. Can you expand on that at all?
That the work that administration has done with its proponent in its negotiating of these of this agreement be approved by this committee and recommend to City Council to also approve.
Okay. Councillor Rice, please go ahead.
I just want to put the motion on the floor and put on
For the recommendation. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Would you like me to restate?
Sure.
Or
Yeah,
just
you can read it in, please.
You can read it. So the Community and Public Service, I move that, committee recommend to City Council that the naming rights agreement as outlined in attachment 1 and 2 of the April 29, 2024 Community Service Report CSO 2463 be approved and the agreement be in the form and the content acceptable to the city manager. So part 2, I move that attachment 1 of the April 29, 2024 Community Services Report says 02463 remain private pursuant to the Section 29 information that is all will be available to the public of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Private Act. So part number 3, the attachment 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the April 29, 2024 Community Service Report says 02463 remain private pursuant to Section 16, disclosure harmful to the business interest of the third part, 24 advice and from officials, and 25 disclosure harmful and to economic and other interests of a public body of the Freedom of Information and the Protection of Private Act.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. We have a motion on the floor. Next, I will go to Councillor Knack.
Yeah, just a quick question. There had been a suggestion earlier about is it possible, and so getting legal's perspective of switching attachment 5 from point 3, but in taking it up to point 2. Do you have any concerns with that?
I don't have any concerns with that.
Okay, so I would, assuming it's friendly, I would just make that amendment. Okay.
All right, I see that as friendly. Councillor Paquette? Is that friendly?
I find it to be.
Okay, great. So we have a friendly amendment to the motion. Any other questions? Seeing none, to speak, Councillor Stevenson, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that friendly amendment that was just made. I want to start by thanking administration for their excellent work on this file. Really appreciate the value that they're working to bring to Edmontonians. For me, this facility belongs to Edmontonians, and I think that as much information as we can share with them as possible, I think is very important. So I appreciate adding attachment 5 to part of the information that will be released publicly in time. But there remains other information in the other attachments, just in terms of the overall value that I feel is important for Edmontonians to know. There are consequences of that in terms of our position as a city, so it's something I'll reflect on as this comes to council. But again, appreciate the friendly amendment that's been made here, and appreciate again the work that administration has done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rice, to close.
Very short, and appreciate administration's work and for this, and then really is a really good way to demonstrate our city working hard and looking for different revenue and to support our city's financial situation, and that is absolutely positive, and also connect with the community and then either business community or regular community or other type of community, and through all this approach and to really work together and to improve our city's revenue. That is a wonderful way and to do it. I just want to say that very quickly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Thank you. Next, we will go on to item 7.1. And we do have some speakers. I will call, I'll ask administration to make a presentation first, and then I will call down Jordan Beatty. Are you here? Yeah, okay, I'll call you down once administration has made their presentation. And whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Good morning, members of committee. My name is Alyssa LaLiberty, and I'm the Branch Manager of Economic Investment Services. I'm joined in person by Tom Gervin, Director of Downtown Vibrancy, and Jenny Baker, Downtown Vibrancy Coordinator, along with other members of administration, as well as Panita McBrien, CEO of Edmonton Downtown Business Association, for questions. The Downtown Vibrancy Strategy focuses on initiatives that promote sustained vibrancy and are designed to increase the number of people downtown to live, work, play, and visit. As part of implementing the strategy, the city is proposing a bylaw amendment to allow for the establishment of an entertainment district. An entertainment district creates a destination for businesses, community, and people to gather in a unique environment. It is designed to create a more vibrant and safe downtown by delivering impactful, long-term benefits, including increased pedestrian traffic, improved business retention and attraction, reduced red tape, and an increased promotion of the downtown area, all with little to no cost to implement.
We propose to amend the Public Spaces Bylaw 14614 in order to designate an entertainment district, which we have chosen to locate on Rice Howard Way. The Gaming, Liquor, and Cannabis Act grants municipalities the authority to create a bylaw that permits the establishment of an entertainment district, which allows for consumption of alcohol in a public space. While the Act permits alcohol purchased outside of the entertainment district to be consumed in a public space, this bylaw amendment limits consumption to only alcohol purchased from licensed establishments within the boundary of the entertainment district. By limiting consumption in this way, we are leveraging the experience and expertise of the licensed businesses to help ensure the safety and security of everyone participating. The entertainment district does not promote additional alcohol consumption or increase risks associated with safety and security. Instead, it enables activities that are currently permitted to occur more easily by reducing red tape for event organizers and allowing businesses to benefit from events, which is currently not always the case. Currently, Rice Howard Way can be used for one-time community or public commercial events that include a beverage garden. This requires an AGLC public special event license, which is limited to one liquor vendor and takes up to 6 weeks to acquire. The application process includes fees and other costs, including structures, barriers, often fencing, and additional security. Nearby businesses are excluded from participating and often negatively impacted by events held on Rice Howard Way. This bylaw amendment eliminates the requirement for an AGLC public special event license and incorporates nearby businesses by allowing for alcoholic beverages purchased from licensed restaurants and bars within the entertainment district to be consumed in a designated public space. These changes reduce red tape, making it easier and less expensive to host events, while better supporting businesses and the investments they've made to Rice Howard Way. The pictures shown here on this slide and the pictures on the following slide are from events that are held on Rice Howard Way. First, Downtown Spark, and the second from the 2023 Canadian Hydrogen Convention. Both of these events were held on Rice Howard Way and included a beverage garden, additional structures, and fencing, which limited the available public space. Feedback from nearby businesses indicated a desire to participate in events such as these. However, current regulations limit their ability to be included as vendors. Multiple areas of downtown were considered, including 104th Street. However, Rice Howard Way was selected as the location for the entertainment district for a variety of reasons. These include the existing aesthetic and walkability of the area, the concentration of restaurants and bars, proximity to Sir Winston Churchill Square, and stakeholder feedback, including what we heard as part of the closed and shared streets in downtown report. We chose to limit the size of the entertainment district boundary to allow us to test this concept and to allow for better control of the area to ensure the safety and security of everyone in attendance. The proposed boundary is 101A Avenue, Rice Howard Way, beginning on the west side of 100th Street to the east side of 101 Street. This boundary includes all city-owned spaces, such as roads, sidewalks, road right-of-way, and parkland, which is the area south of Enbridge Place. The intersection at 100A Avenue and 100A Street is included, but vehicular traffic is permitted to allow for parkade access. Security and signage will be on site to ensure pedestrian safety at this intersection. The creation of an entertainment district on Rice Howard Way supports multiple actions outlined in the downtown vibrancy strategy and is expected to both attract people to the downtown core and support those who regularly work, live, play, or visit the area. Once established by bylaw, the entertainment district can be activated at any time at the discretion of the city. Requests from external stakeholders to activate the entertainment district outside of the project specified in the report will be managed via the city's civic events application process. The entertainment district bylaw amendment also reduces red tape by eliminating the need for an AGLC public special event license. It directly supports businesses on Rice Howard Way by allowing alcoholic beverages purchased from their businesses to be consumed in the designated public space, which is currently not permitted with any other license.
The project team held one-on-one stakeholder meetings with businesses and residents located on Rice Howard Way. Those conversations generated a great deal of positive feedback. Bars, restaurants, businesses, and residents in the area expressed excitement about the idea of an entertainment district and the vibrancy that it will bring to the area. The second phase of engagement was an online public engagement survey. Results were gathered from almost 500 respondents, 87% of whom responded that they were either likely or very likely to participate in the Rice Howard Way Entertainment District. Safety was the #1 concern, flagged by 52% of respondents. Secondary concerns included parking at 22%, traffic at 16%, and noise at 10%. 32% of respondents indicated that there were no concerns that they had with the proposed plan. Plans to mitigate the concerns raised during stakeholder engagement will be built into the operational plans. Other reports that have informed this decision include the Downtown Vibrancy Strategy and the Closed and Shared Streets Report, which identified opportunities for car-free streets for pedestrians and special event use.
The city will collaborate with the Edmonton Downtown Business Association to activate the entertainment district in consultation with nearby businesses. This summer, the entertainment district would operate Saturdays from June 1st to August 24th from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Funding will come from the Downtown Vibrancy Fund, and we estimate this project will cost approximately $200,000. Rice Howard Way, 101A Avenue specifically, will close to vehicle traffic, but 100A Street will remain open, including access to the parkade. Programming and activities will take place until 10 p.m. on the roadway to create a pleasant atmosphere. A working group will be formed with representatives from relevant city departments and external stakeholders, including the businesses located in the district, to ensure collaboration and communication during the project. This includes a primary focus on the safety and security of everyone participating in the entertainment district. We are optimistic the entertainment district will have a strong impact on supporting a more vibrant and safe downtown. Thank you, and we're pleased to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for that presentation. Now I will call Jordan Beatty to come on down, and the clerk will direct you to a seat over here, or guide, or the podium, whichever is most comfortable. All right, so you will have 5 minutes. You'll see that on the podium, the light will be green for the first 4, turn yellow when there's 1 minute remaining, and then it will turn red when the time is up. So please, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Jordan Beatty. I'm the operations manager for the Sherlock Holmes Hospitality Group, speaking on behalf of the ownership today. We have been a resident, a tenant, a business of Rice Howard Way for going on 40 years. I myself have been with the company since 2001, started with the company as a bartender and spent a lot of time down in Rice Howard Way, and then started as a general manager in 2011. So I have seen Rice Howard Way from 2001 to today. I lived there during COVID, and it was a real treat. I use that word lightly because, well, I don't know how else to describe it. It was a time for everybody. And we have not quite recovered from that time as far as downtown goes, as far as Rice Howard Way goes. We know that this bylaw will make it so that we can activate downtown, we can activate Rice Howard Way. We've activated Rice Howard Way before, we've done it successfully, we've done it for families, for events, and we've done it safely, and we really just want that opportunity to do it again. We want people to have a reason to come downtown, because right now, people can be a little bit timid about coming downtown. Activating Rice Howard Way, making these events on Saturdays will give people an excuse to go down. When we do it successfully, they'll tell their friends. They won't just show up on Saturdays. They'll go, oh, downtown. Yeah, let's go, instead of, oh, downtown. I don't know if I can go anywhere except Rogers Arena. It's a real stigma. It's something I hear about. We've got 5 locations. I've got people at other locations that don't want to go downtown. This will give us an opportunity to showcase exactly what we can do and how safe downtown truly can be. That's about it from my end of things. I appreciate your time and appreciate everybody, and appreciate everybody that's done all the piles of work to get to this point. We just want to see it go through. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we are going to hear from Stephen Rates. Please, Stephen.
Yes, hello. Just checking in and checking that you can hear me.
We sure can. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name's Stephen, and I'm a board member with Paths for People, and we've been involved with a collaborative effort between multiple downtown stakeholders to push forward for better pedestrianization within our core. And so we're here today to speak in favor of the entertainment district proposal that the city is contemplating. And so we're really excited that the city has taken a step towards creating more spaces that put people first within our downtown, and we look forward to further steps in that direction. We hear a lot from our members across the city, and a key idea that they want to see more of within our downtown is trialing out low-cost and high-impact ways of enlivening our downtown. They want to see a lot of other stuff too, but they're really excited about this idea as well. And Rice Howard Way, as a long-standing pedestrian area within our core, is a perfect place to take some of those initial steps. And so it's time to take that first step, I guess, in this direction to actually make this more people-focused space and draw folks into downtown, making lingering and walking around more fun. Programming this space more consistently means that this space just doesn't become a one-off location to check out if there is something going on that is scheduled. If there's a consistency, a weekly nature to this, it begins to get ingrained in folks' memories that this is a destination for people to meet up, to visit, and to have fun. And so one thing that we do really want to emphasize as this proposal moves forward is the importance of traffic calming. Even though traffic is typically moving pretty slowly through this area, it's really important to provide signals to drivers that reinforce that they are moving through a people-first space. And so this means some kind of physical indicator or a signal that indicates to folks that they should be driving really timidly so that pedestrians who are out and about enjoy the space without feeling threatened by vehicles, which at the end of the day, when used incorrectly or unsafely, have the potential to seriously maim or harm people. And so by prioritizing pedestrian connectivity to access the district, it will further encourage people to spend time within Rice Howard Way and frequent the businesses there. And so just speaking personally here for a second, I'm really excited that this kind of proposal is being brought forward this summer. I'm someone who just finished university now and will be working downtown full time. And so I know myself and many of my peers want more of these spaces and experiences. And so, first of all, we should be really thankful that folks want to stay around Edmonton. There's a lot of great stuff here. And one of those other great things that we can add to our city to create an even better opportunity and experience for folks is bringing about those more big city nights out that are in accessible locations for everyone to enjoy. And so thanks for the opportunity to share our viewpoints on this matter, and we would be happy to take any questions should there be any.
Thank you very much for that. So it looks like Councillor Rice has some questions. I'll go to Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Chair Principe. I just have a very quick question, and I can sense that excitement from both of you, and thank you very much for coming to speak. The question is, yes, we have so many exciting, so many good things, so many benefits. Did you see any challenge could cause as a result of this?
Challenges, yes, but there are challenges that we can plan for. There's challenges. Anytime that you've got people involved, we're seeing it at Rogers last night, right? Anytime you've got people, you just plan accordingly. We know that there's going to be consumption, which we deal with daily, and consumption is our business. That's not going to be the challenge for us. The challenge is making sure that we can do this as easily and as quickly and as successfully as possible, and not getting this bylaw through is I think the biggest hurdle as far as that goes.
Yes, I agree with that, and that is we deal with like lots of things like that way. And as my specific question, I would like to hear some like specific way how you deal with as a result. And I know there are many benefits there. We have pedestrian traffic increase. We have other type of things, good things. But how to deal with some challenging, and for example, in terms of safety,
Okay.
and if you have more people come in, and then more people, yeah, let's get exciting, go to downtown. More people come in, and then in terms of the business and facing certain things, and is there any specific plan in your mind to say, we're going to implement this, and also we have something we have to prepare?
We'll increase our staffing. But I think all the businesses around will do that as well.
Okay.
We will make sure that we comply with any of the decisions that have been made as far as leaving the premises with alcoholic drinks. We're also going to make sure that we do our part, regardless of whether or not this goes through, to continue the safe consumption in and around Rice Howard Way. And part of that is to continue to be diligent and perform our duty of care. It's something that we have to do on a regular basis, and it doesn't matter if there's people that come into our establishment from others or come from elsewhere. We're just going to add more people. But we will add more security, we'll add more door staff, and we'll make sure that there are more eyes on the people.
Okay, so that's what I heard, and
Yep.
prepare more resources. And
Yeah,
to
absolutely. And fundamentally, the more people that we have to serve, the more people we need to serve.
So that is as a result, and create more jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, and then compliance with our like alcohol consumption and in
Yep.
public
Yeah,
spaces.
regardless of this being city, we have to adhere to our license with the province. So if we don't comply and if we don't do our job, we can potentially lose that. So anything that the city does to help benefit the area and our business is only in conjunction with making sure that we do our part to continue doing our safe practices according to our license.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. I had seen Councillor Paquette's name on there, but I don't see it any longer. Councillor Paquette? No? Okay.
Yep,
Councillor
I'm
Wright?
good.
You're good? Okay. Councillor Wright, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'm just wondering if maybe Mr. Rates, I'm concerned with the through traffic going right through the entertainment district, as you know, with paths for people. Do you have any concerns with the traffic still flowing through on 108th Street?
I think in an ideal world, we'd love to open up the street completely and just have traffic redirected away from the space, just to remove any possibility for encounters. But we understand that, you know, there's got to be access to the to that specific parkade and to other businesses along that street. And so that's why we really emphasize the point around traffic calming, because there's examples all around the world where we have this kind of thing and traffic is still able to move through or nearby these spaces, but it's done so safely. And so that's why we really reinforce the point around, let's just have really good traffic calming at that intersection, like really slowing down vehicles so that they're almost the ones, or like drivers are driving so slowly, like they're the ones who are afraid to move through the space. Like they still are able to, but they just do so in such a safe manner that it doesn't pose a threat to anybody. I think that's the best case scenario here. And so we just really like to see that level of traffic calming placed at the intersection to make sure that it's as safe as it can be for everybody.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, if people are inebriated, they might not necessarily be totally aware of any traffic moving around them. So, and I certainly wouldn't want any injuries. But you figure that the traffic calming measures that are intended for the space will work?
Yeah. If the city puts forward, places something and kind of learns as we go too, I think that's the opportunity here. Like it'll be trialed every week. And so I think there's opportunities to learn as we go. And so we just really encourage the city to make that intersection as safe as humanly possible.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. That was my only concern.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I am not seeing any further questions to the speakers. So thank you very much to the speakers for being here today. Next, we will be going to questions of administration, but prior to doing that, I would like to welcome, we have some students here and their teacher from Northmount School, and with teacher Mrs. Mazan. Hi, everyone. And they are in the ward I represent from Northmount School. I'm so happy to see you all here. Welcome. You're in grade 6? Yeah? And are you having fun? Yeah? 2 thumbs up. All right. Great. Well, we're so happy to have you here. Thanks for visiting us today. So next we will go to questions of administration. Councillor Paquette, please go ahead.
I believe Councillor Knack selected this.
You are correct, Councillor Knack. You are up.
I was pretty much just going to go on and move it, so if that's okay, let's do it. So I'm going to move, there's that recommendation up at the top. The Community and Public Services Committee recommended City Council that bylaw 20814 be given the appropriate readings. I might just ask a few very quick questions then. Is that okay? Yep. Just wanted to double check when we're doing, this area is captured in the speed limit reduction zone, but when we're, if we're thinking of broadening this out a bit, are we looking at temporary speed zone? I don't know if I saw a change or on the reports. Did I miss that?
No, we haven't recommended a specific change from speed zone. James Robinson and the traffic team could speak to it, but I can just tell you in general, like the safety security of everyone involved is absolutely priority number one. Yeah. That intersection in particular will have security personnel at all times, along with signage and other mitigating items to help support a safe environment. But if our traffic colleagues want to speak to speed limit.
Yes, from a Parks and Roads perspective, following the adoption of a bylaw here, we would develop a traffic accommodation plan that would incorporate the on-site security provided by hired good as crossing agents at the intersection. Keep in mind it is a 4-way stop with low speeds already. The plan would also provide for signage and really be holistic in terms of pedestrian safety, but also driver safety and those who walk, roll, and cycle as well. So signage will be key as well, and that will be that plan will be developed upon approval of this bylaw.
Yeah, I was just wondering, again, I'm trying to think of what's sort of a simple solution, because I believe technically Rice Howard Way is the one road you're legally allowed to jaywalk across in the bylaw. Is it just worth us putting, and most people turning on that street already go extremely so, but is it worth just putting up a 20K an hour sign just to really drive it home that, hey, you're entering into what is a very truly mixed-use shared street space? So, can that be something done without having to do a modification of the speed zone bylaw, or whatever we name that bylaw itself? Yes,
Yeah,
speed zone bylaw, yes, I was right about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we will certainly have the eyes of our traffic engineers on this, who advise further on the signage and other traffic accommodation planning to make for a safe event.
Okay, yeah, I think that's something we should maybe think about the entire summer if we're gonna try this, and make sure we're encouraging people to, a little bit to Mr. Wright's points around, we want people to think about how they're going through that area for those that have to go through versus those who we're trying to attract to the space. Okay, great, that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. Councillor Paquette?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, I think anyone who's been down there will experience that the traffic is already extremely slow. It probably never gets over 10 kilometers per hour, I would estimate. Has that been your experience too, Mr. Robinson?
Yes, Bryce Howard Way has been identified for the entertainment district because it is very much a space used by multi-modes of transportation. And so speed limits are pretty low there. I'm not a traffic engineer, but this activation is planned because it is quite a walkable street with low traffic as well. So the traffic accommodation plan will anticipate the various road users and plan accordingly.
Okay, it's probably because I've got kids, but every time I hear traffic engineer, I think traffic imagineer. So at any rate, to administration, if this is approved, goes to council. So what is the soonest this can start to be rolled out?
Yeah, my understanding is that would be at May 14th City Council, but I could, maybe Margot could comment in terms of when, if passed, the bylaw would be in effect.
Hi, Councillor Paquette. I can actually have to get back to you on that. I don't deal with bylaws typically, so I can check in with my colleague and I can let you know right away.
Okay, no problem. I guess I'll change the question. When we pass a bylaw, how soon does that go into effect? I would assume immediately.
Typically, yes, the bylaw goes into effect immediately unless there's any need for anything that's subject to that. But this bylaw would go into effect immediately.
Okay, thank you. And so to administration, understanding that, would that mean that things can get rolled out fairly quickly by mid-May? That things, I mean, not to assume an outcome, but if there was a positive outcome, would things be ready to sort of roll that out immediately?
Yeah, we're planning for June 1st to be the first event held, which would be downtown Spark specifically. Okay. But the details of the project also are in collaboration, show that the collaboration is with the Downtown Business Association. So Downtown Spark and then 12 other Saturdays would be the programming for this summer, which isn't technically required. The entertainment district can exist without specific programming and activation, but we think it's extremely important to have the space be activated in order to accomplish the intended outcome, which is more people downtown and a more vibrant and safe place.
Sure, but the businesses on Rice Howard Way could take advantage of the bylaw as soon as it's passed, I would imagine.
They could. In terms of when it will be activated, we're proposing that the activation will be only on Saturdays this summer, as outlined, and that's really to test the concept and to ensure that we have the proper plan in place. That could expand even as early as this summer, but right now the focus is on starting June 1st and Saturdays only.
Okay, and why Saturdays only and not Saturday and Sunday? Friday night?
Thanks, Councillor Paquette. It's Panita here. There's been a bit of back and forth about that. Part of the challenge is the road closure impacting some of the retail businesses on the street as well, who don't necessarily benefit from the entertainment district. And there's also a parkade there that their access is somewhat limited when this is activated. We also are, in an abundance of caution for getting this rolling, staffing this really heavily, like we talked about with Hire Good, and just our staff and ambassadors out on the street. So just from a resource perspective, it feels more feasible to do it Saturdays for now.
Okay, makes sense. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rice?
Thank you, Councillor Paquette, and because that's one question I'm asking, why only Saturday? And because if you look at the timeline change, and the maximum 3 months for Saturday, each month for 4 days, only 12 days. And then my next related question, only 12 days, but the project cost is $200,000. And then how could that reflect on the investment and the return?
Yeah, we think the project timeline and the scope is the proper size. We think 13 Saturdays is a really good opportunity for us to understand the impact that this can make. We also feel like the costs associated, which are almost solely on programming, activity, and safety security, is quite frankly good value in terms of the number of people we're expecting to attract, and also the amount of support that we'll provide to the businesses in the area who continue to make significant investments in our downtown. So we think that, you know, that collection is the right size. Quite honestly, we can, like I said, it is flexible. You could see some expansion, but we don't want to, quite frankly, run before we walk.
So I fully support this principle and also this approach and to our state downtown's vibrancy, and specifically to bring more people come to the downtown. And so that is a good principle. And then from policy perspective, I just a little bit worry about for this 13 days event. So that is 13 days event based on my understanding by reading report, by the answer you provided to the other councillors' questions. And we're going to cost $200,000. So right now, and then it's a little bit, and considering, and because based on city's financial situation right now, and for the 13 days, even for the 150,000 for 7.1, we had this big debate on that. And right now, this 200,000 cost and for 13 days event. And can you explain a little bit more and how could you justify that to really bring that benefits and to the cost and we invested here?
I think, Councillor Rice, in addition to the activation that Tom was talking about, there's also some long-term investments in terms of renewing the spaces through brick paving repairs on Rice Howard Way. So that will last longer than just the 13 events. We also, through our Downtown Vibrancy Fund, will support other activations and festivals that bring thousands of people to our downtown. This is something that's going to be a series over 13 different weekends. So it's a little bit of a different model, but the funding in terms of the dollars spent to activate this space is similar to what you see in other activities in our downtown.
So this $200,000 already budgeted in this strategy and is not additional request.
That's correct.
So then my next related question is about security, beautification, and cleanliness. And so this is part of the cost, right?
Yeah, so the cleanliness is part of our existing resources. The beautification is also part of what's planned, and the security is included in that, specifically as part of the project led by EDBA and Penita.
So if that is the case, and we just approved last week a $1.5 million increase, and for the for downtown area for the specific cleanness, and then is this part of that, or this is separate?
No, that'll be
separate financial resources, and because when we approve that one, we really want to support the events happening in the downtown area and to support. To me, this is a little bit overlap, and for that, from that perspective.
Yeah, we work closely with our city operations team on cleanliness, and their activities will support this. There's no additional funding required for this. Any additional funding, like I said, comes from the Downtown Vibrancy Fund, which is designed to help implement the strategy focused on increasing the number of people downtown.
So that means for that approved $1.5 million will not be used for this case because we already have strategy funding cover this project. Is that
the cleanliness, the work associated with maintaining a clean space will just will be part of the ongoing work.
That is ongoing work. This is specific for the event.
Yeah, the specific event, I mean, we've got additional, there'll be additional cleaning required, but that's just within the scope of the project. Like I said, nothing over and above.
I may have another question come back, and then my time is out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rice. I do have a question. So what we actually have here today is a motion to recommend about a bylaw being created. We're not actually here to approve Rice Howard Way, correct?
We do not need direction to do the project. No, the question at hand is essentially the bylaw.
Right.
And the bylaw enables the designation of the entertainment district, which, like we said, reduces red tape. And the biggest change is that businesses are allowed to sell alcohol, and that can be consumed off-premise in the designated public space, so with lots of care and control.
Okay, I appreciate that you did give us an example as to how you would activate the bylaw if it were to pass. And also, now, if you were to, if this were to pass at council and we go ahead with Rice Howard Way, then that's going to be a pilot project, is that correct?
You could use that term, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and then administration will determine how this bylaw is activated, or will you come to council asking for direction?
So the bylaw specific to Rice Howard Way can be activated. That would be in full force. Future expansion either of this location or new locations would come back to council for approval.
Okay.
So if we wanted
Yeah.
to do a different location, which is on the table but not at hand.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those were my only questions. Next, we'll go to Councillor Stevenson. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Really appreciate the speakers joining us today and appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I wanted to start with some questions I've heard from nearby residents, because of course there are residential properties on Rice Howard Way. The first just relates to noise. So if I understood from the report, noise would continue to be managed through our special events licensing and agreements?
Correct.
Great, and I assume there's a commitment from the DBA to ensure that residents' concerns are being addressed in that regard?
Yes, absolutely. June 1st is a big concert, but the intention for every Saturday after that is to be much, much quieter. So more busker style entertainment rather than like the big stage and loud music.
Great. And will there, I think, something that really helps in these types of situations is just having a touch point. Will there be sort of a dedicated person that residents can reach out to just sort of as this rolls out, so there's opportunities for continuous improvement?
I think for this summer, given that it's our project that's activating the street, that'll likely be someone on my team, yeah.
Great. And I think also just from a city side as well, so really appreciate that and appreciate the DBA's commitment to that. Are the alleyways still going to be open?
The alleyways will be open, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And one of the biggest concerns I've had is just in terms of pickup and drop off and deliveries for the residential units. Is there any consideration of expanding the existing loading zone on 100th Street a bit further north? So there is a loading zone that starts just south of the McLeod Lofts, just south of their entrance. Just wondering if that could potentially be stretched back, even arguably like across Rice Howard Way to, let's say, in front of Rosewoods to enable more pickup and drop off, which I think would also help support the event.
Yeah, we'll definitely take that specific note away, but we are looking at potentially creating a bit of a roundabout to allow for loading and third-party food delivery, et cetera. So we're working through those specifics, but we definitely want to accommodate.
I appreciate that. I think any accommodation of what the residential building might need in terms of skip the dishes or Uber pickups, things like that would go a really long way. Just want to confirm my understanding as well that this space will be an all ages space?
Correct.
Excellent. And just curious around the exact boundaries. So it seems like the vast majority of licensed premises on Rice Howard Way would be included, but I'm just thinking like OEB, I think they do mimosas. Like, are they excluded from participating because of the location?
They're technically outside of the boundary. So we wanted to limit it to what it was, just to basically have a smaller footprint. But the opportunity to expand it is definitely something that would be informed by the project and also stakeholder feedback following it.
Okay, yeah, I certainly see space for that, and again, I don't know how laborious of a change it is to maybe just include, both those sidewalks going up 100A Street, recognizing we don't want to close that to vehicle traffic, but just a consideration. I think it's important for this to move forward on the current timelines, but, if that is an easy amendment. Just wanted to confirm a few other quick things. I think I can do it. The bylaw mentions only a peace or a police officer can remove people from the area. So just want to confirm we have adequate resources to support.
That I don't believe that's correct. I think it's anyone authorized by the city manager can ask someone to remove, along with the peace officer, which also would include an EPS member.
Okay, great. And there'll be some clarity and training and resources provided in terms of what constitutes behavior that...
Absolutely.
Perfect. I also really appreciate the work that was done in terms of working with agencies that work with folks who experience marginalization in the downtown. Just want to confirm that their feedback will be intentionally gathered as we do the evaluation in September.
Absolutely.
Great. Final question to Ms. McBrien. I know having nicer road closure signs has been something that the DBA has been pushing for a while. Is that something that has progressed as part of this conversation, or something that you think is maybe an opportunity to look into, given that we'll be doing that every week?
Yes, so we are having that conversation. I wouldn't want to speak for James Robinson and Parks and Roads, but we do hope that we'll be able to put up branded barricades. I'm sure there will still be some orange traffic signage required, but hopefully not that makes it look like a construction site.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Rutherford?
Yeah, I just have one quick question. The project itself, so I get there's sort of two pieces. There's the bylaw, and then once we pass that, as per Councillor Paquette, it's in place until it's not in place, right? The entertainment district is there throughout the year?
It can be activated at any time. We're proposing that the activation, or the designation only occurs on the Saturdays to start.
Yeah, no, I get the Saturdays. What I was more concerned about is that it ends at the end of August, and I just know that we've been having some really nice falls. And so I just want to know what the potential is. And maybe I'll go to the DBA rep to say, like, what do you think about, like, if this is successful on these Saturdays, is there plans or thoughts or how we expand it into the fall? Because I just know that we've had really gorgeous falls, and especially with some of the smoke we've had in the summer, falls tend to actually sometimes be even better for outdoor gatherings. So just your thoughts on that.
Councillor, I'll just clarify that the bylaw will exist past August.
Yeah, I get that, but the activation,
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the activations, because as I read it goes till the end of August, but I'm thinking we're maybe a missed opportunity if we don't consider how we expand those activations into the fall.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Rutherford. So the way that this is being funded is we are applying to the Downtown Vibrancy Strategy to fund all the staffing and everything that we've talked about so far. So it would just be a matter of, if the weather's great and it's going really well and we're all saying this has to keep going, we would just look to see if there's funding available to keep going.
Yeah, there's also a desire from the businesses to find solutions long term. Something we heard, and that's really the focus in terms of we want to make this successful. That's part of why we're limiting it to a bit of a smaller scope, but over a consistent period of time. And if successful, we will find every opportunity to activate it, and the preference would be more than less.
So even activations during, let's say, the playoff run when the Oilers take the cup?
It does line up with the Stanley Cup final, so it would be in play. And yeah, I think that quite honestly, the opportunities are endless. You could look at winter activation, you could look at activation, up to full time. So it really is going to be informed by how well this project goes, but also stakeholder feedback and that of the businesses.
Perfect. That was my only question. And if there is I guess my last question to administration, if this is successful and DBA needs more funding do we have funding in the Downtown Vibrancy Fund to continue this into the fall?
Definitely.
Okay, that was my last question. Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Wright?
Thank you very much. I'm just getting back to, I guess, the security. There was one mention that there was going to be people hired from Hire Good to sort of manage the traffic flow and whatnot.
Yeah, so part of the project proposal includes security from Hire Good and the Night Patrol. I'll let Panita maybe talk about the details.
I'm looking at Hire Good's website, and it talks to, like, it's property management, washroom attendants, junk removal, pressure washing, litter pickup. I'm just wondering what sort of security training that they have,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
especially if they have city manager approval to remove people.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. So security is a newer offering of Hire Good. Only a select number of their staff have received full security training like any security guard would have. And then in addition to that, the reason we like to work with Hire Good is they also have lived experience from being on the streets themselves. So they're just really fantastic at de-escalating any potential situations, and they're just wonderful to work with. So they have all the training that you would expect from any security personnel. And then we're also requiring that they all receive Pro-Serve and Protect training from AGLC.
Okay, great. I think Hire Good is a great organization, and they've done wonderful things in our community. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they were fully equipped then to deal with this. Thank you very much for setting my mind at ease. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councillor Rice?
I would like to start say thank you, Councillor Rutherford, to ask that question, because that's the same question I'm going to ask him. For September, there are additional 4 days for Saturdays. That means add existing 13 days, that's 17 days. And with the funding $200,000 and in the vibrancy strategy, and plus the funding we just approved last week, and for some like downtown area, vibrancy improvement, cleanness, do you think, I just want to look at the policy scope change here. The policy scope, and it's because this is public space bylaw, if we made this change, and then is that possibility, and with this scope you present right now, to add that 4 days and in this change?
Yeah, so in terms of the project and the details, as noted, we have the ability to change that as our information is gathered. The bylaw specifically doesn't limit us to the days specified, so we could add the Saturdays. And I can tell you that we want this to be successful. The desire would be that it would be activated through September. It would happen on multiple days during the week, but we also are conscious that we need to test it first, resource appropriately, and make decisions after that fact. So in terms of, anything required to extend it into September, we don't need council direction to do that.
So you can just automatically add that
Correct.
4 days and under this bylaw scope, because in the bylaw, and it said very clearly, is August 24th, 2024.
Yeah.
So that is why I'm thinking if we need to change that, it's better to change it as a first place instead of you come back September to ask the extension.
Yeah, we do not need any approval to activate the district if the bylaw is adopted at any day of the week.
Will be okay.
It will be okay.
Okay, as long as the funding is available.
Correct. Yeah, like the funding is the activation is optional. Like in terms of the costs associated with the entertainment district, it's very minimal. If we program it and activate it like we're planning, there is some additional cost associated. But there isn't, like in terms of the additional costs, they're very, very limited.
I would like appreciate to see the value come out from $200,000 by adding the September 4 days. So I think that would be more appreciated by our public to see that amount of money invested to bring more values and to this policy change. So I think that could be my extended a little bit for the question.
Yeah, noted, and something we'll take away.
Okay, thank you for consideration for that piece. And otherwise, and the 13 days for the $200,000, and then I think, and we may receive some question for that. So just for consideration. And my next question is about the role between the downtown vibrancy team and the role of EDBA, and then in terms of evaluation for this pilot project. So what specific measures we're going to put there to ensure the success for this program?
Yeah, we plan to, I mean, we'll have ongoing consultation feedback. The EDBA team and our team work very, very closely together, and we'll be in constant communication about opportunities to improve and the successes. We're also planning on doing more public engagement following the event, as well as, you know, surveying businesses formally in terms of understanding what their experiences were. So we feel like we'll have lots of opportunity to gather information to evaluate the success.
Specific, do you have the data set already defined what type of data you're going to gather, and also economic data as well?
Yeah, in terms of, you know, we're focused on supporting the businesses and supporting, you know, revenue. That's one item, but there's multiple different pieces. We haven't gotten to a point where we've got the methodology defined, the measures, but if the bylaw is adopted, that's something that we will work on.
So, but that methodology will come back to the council for approve, or it just implemented? And then because the program was started June 1st,
Yeah.
that is really soon.
It will not. We'll continue with regular updates about our work with Downtown Vibrancy, but the report is a bylaw amendment report requesting for the establishment of an entertainment district. So as mentioned, the project is really outside of the scope of the report. It's simply there to highlight our plans and to demonstrate how we plan to make it a success.
Okay, thank you. My time is out.
Thank you. Councillor Paquette?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. And I believe that Councillor Stevenson raised a very interesting point about near adjacent businesses, literally just like steps away, that might be excluded from this. I'm just wondering if that might be just a very simple adjustment to the bylaw to include that.
Yeah, that's something we'll take away, Councillor, in terms of what amendments we could make before we presented it to City Council. I can tell you that we did explore a larger area, so it's not work that really needs to happen outside of whether or not we can make the change to include that. So
yeah, because you can imagine, you know, in real life experience, we're going to get comments like, and complaints probably about like, hey, why was this business excluded? Or the business themselves might say, this doesn't make sense. We're literally just like 10, like not even like 5 meters away from this. So, and there's nothing else nearby besides that. So it seems very, very odd to just exclude just little portions. And that could just become, you know, an issue that has to be dealt with anyway. So yeah, if we can take care of it in advance, that would be great. Is that sort of what I'm hearing is possible?
we will take that away and look at it from a legality perspective.
Okay.
In terms of whether we can amend the map.
Yeah, and just a common sense perspective, right?
Yeah. I will just add, Councillor, the patios of those adjacent businesses still will benefit from the vibrancy and the environment and the entertainment. So it's kind of like the entertainment district, in our view, is a technicality for, you know, where people can freely move about with beverages from businesses right on that stretch. But OEB, as an example, their patio faces all the activity, and you'll very much feel a part of it, even if you're sitting on the OEB patio.
Okay, and has anyone heard from OEB on this and their preference?
Yeah, we've reached out to them for engagement, and we were just waiting to hear back from them. They were checking in with their head office, so I don't have an answer from them as of yet.
Okay, because if they're happy with status quo for now, just to sort of test it out and see how it goes, I'm happy to. I just, you know, sometimes we get these little quirks in our bylaws that we come back and be like, wow, how come no one caught that before, right? So, okay, that's great. And geez, otherwise, this sounds like a really excellent plan. I would like to ask, though, you know, a preference has been indicated, but we didn't really get a firm answer on sort of that dedicated signage that doesn't look like construction signage? Because obviously, if we can take care of that and it's simple, why wouldn't we?
Happy to answer that, Councillor Paquette. So we engage regularly with the Edmonton Downtown Business Association, and we know that there is a preference that signage not just serve a traffic accommodation purpose, but also be welcoming. And so as we prepare the traffic accommodation plan, we will work with the EDBA and the stakeholders to have signage that not only serves a road safety function, but also provides a welcoming environment. So we'll look at it with both those lenses as we plan for how the street is configured.
Okay, and that would be great. Obviously we want to keep taxes low for everyone, and that means that we need people downtown and wanting to be downtown. So aesthetics matter. And to that point, there might be some extra litter. I hope not, but do we have we thought about that in advance?
Yeah, so as part of our working group that is underway, there is colleagues from Waste Services who are part of this team, also provision of additional litter containers and the on-site resources that will resource the activation during the days of the events and the setup and takedown as well. So that's all part of the resource plan.
Okay, and we've engaged with businesses and everyone is sort of like, yep, there might be a little bit extra that we all do, but it's not that onerous since we're getting so much benefit out of it. Is that sort of the conversation that's been happening?
Yeah, certainly a shared responsibility amongst all the parties.
Yeah, okay, great. That's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Councillor Rice, go ahead.
Thank you. So I heard it's the first time for us to do this, for make this public space bylaw change for this type of change, right?
Correct.
And as a first experiment, and we even could be extended to more locations in the future after this.
That's correct.
So I also heard there is no methodology in place to measure the success to do the licensure and how we could extend it to the more locations. So then my question to administration is, do you need a specific direction on how we measure the success to make sure the outcome and we planned to be achieved more cost effectively or efficiently, and then in order for us to extend this change to other locations, or they extend the timeline longer as well?
I think, Councillor Rice, this is part of our existing go forward work should the bylaw be approved. As Tom had mentioned, we are planning to evaluate the results of the activations to determine what the success is, and we'll bring back those updates and what we learn back to council through the regular downtown vibrancy updates.
So when is that? Regular downtown vibrancy?
Yeah, we do a quarterly update as part of the transit safety security update. We're also planning, we've got multiple reports coming back.
When is the next time?
We're not currently scheduled. The transit safety update is
quarterly.
It's quarterly.
Yeah. And it's quarterly, that means should be like quarter, September sometime.
We'd be happy to memo council on the success of the entertainment district. That's something we'd be happy to do.
So because I'm considering to put some like subsequent motion and to evaluate this project and to make sure and we really have some data in place, we really have something in place and we can use as evidence to extend it in the different locations and all timeline.
So to be clear, when I talked about we didn't have a methodology, we just didn't necessarily have the specific measures determined. We have regular reporting through the Downtown Vibrancy Fund, and as a grant recipient, the DBA will provide that. I can tell you in terms of measuring the success of this, it'll be determined by the number of people that we attract to the events, which we have a mechanism to help capture, the number of people that the businesses attract and have, which we have a mechanism to gather, and general feedback from another public engagement survey in September or October to determine what the feedback was on the event overall. So we definitely have an evaluation plan in place. The specific metrics are just things that we will finalize.
Okay, so during finalization, I would appreciate if you consider some of the cost effectiveness, and because for this project, we do put lots of funding there and to do it. And for this, for city's downtown vibrancy strategy, we definitely put lots of funding there. And then how to look at that results in terms of investment and return, I think that's Edmontonians will be very interesting to know.
Noted.
Okay, thank you very much. That's my question.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. So I'm going to ask Clerk Karpaszewski, if Councillor Rice was interested in doing a subsequent, would it be at council when this comes back to council?
Thank you, Councillor Principe. Once the bylaw passes, then the subsequent motion would have merit.
Okay.
Because the citizen will do it. And then, so at this moment, I will not put the subsequent motion. And they will do this as a part of downtown vibrancy strategy.
Okay, great.
Like quarterly reports. Right. And I will say that next time when the report come back, if it's needed or not.
Perfect, great, thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions to administration. Last call. Okay, so anyone to speak to the motion? Councillor Stevenson, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I wanted to take a few moments just to share my full support for this approach, and would encourage my my colleagues who are on committee to support this. I am really excited that we are using this other tool in our tool belt to support downtown vibrancy, and appreciate all the partners coming together to make this happen. You know, I did want to take a moment, though, to speak to a tension that exists. So I'm a former resident of downtown, and there is a challenge of it being a central activity node and also your backyard and where you try to get to sleep at night. This is in people's backyard. It is next to their homes, and so that will have some impacts. I think the approach to focus on Saturdays only is a really great way to sort of mitigate some of the impacts that could be had. And I was really pleased to hear the commitment from the DBA around managing noise and responding to concerns that are in the area. You know, also really excited to hear the city looking at accommodating, you know, those delivery needs that are so prevalent in our day-to-day lives now for the residents in the area. So I don't doubt that there will be some growing pains and some bumps along the way, but again, appreciate the openness to be responsive and help accommodate folks who are not only visiting and running businesses, but living in the area as well. I appreciate the conversation around sort of the geography of the area. I do think, you know, just reflecting on the current boundaries, you know, just managing some of that, you know, if you're carrying a cup and you take a step, you know, in one direction, you know, just how we might be able to amend those boundaries marginally to help manage, not only to include more businesses, but just to help manage some of that on site. But I think as it stands right now, it will be a great starting point, and pleased to see that going ahead. You know, I'm really excited that we can support businesses. I think it's a great point that brick and mortar businesses don't always benefit from some of the activations we've done. So I think that's very positive. But I also appreciate that it will continue to be a free space and that people can come and enjoy the programming as well, and people of all ages. I think it's really critical as part of the success measures that all Edmontonians get to enjoy this. So appreciate that lens when we're doing the evaluation work. Just wanted to close in saying, you know, I'm really grateful to all of my council colleagues for the support and investment that they've shown to the downtown. You know, the $5 million a year in downtown vibrancy is a huge commitment and a really valued one, and I think examples like this show how that can be activated. But I wanted to make that point that we can put the funding out there, but we really rely on our partners to bring it to life. So thank you to the businesses, thank you to the DBA for making this come alive, and really looking forward to spending more time on Rice Howard Way this summer. Thank you.
And thank you, Councillor Stevenson, for sharing your thoughts, especially as the representative for the ward. Seeing no other colleagues to speak to this? No? Councillor Knack, you selected this. Would you like to close?
Yes, let's do this here and many other places, and see that, and hopefully with success, do it many other places.
Thank you, Councillor Knack, for your words of wisdom. Okay. Please vote. I am a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. All right, we are done our 2 selected items. Responses to councillor inquiries, none. Private reports, none. Motions pending, none. Notices of motion and motions without customary notice. None. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.